I don't know. I don't want to say anything, get myself in trouble here.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah.
The very film that gave us chills, thrills, and emotional tilts. Training Day didn't just change Hollywood, it changed Denzel Washington forever. At 70, the man who turned Detective Alonzo Harris into one of cinema's most unforgettable villains is finally breaking his silence. For 2 decades, fans and critics have praised his Oscar-winning performance, but beneath the applause lies a story far more interesting than the one we saw on screen. For years, Washington stayed quiet about what it truly cost him. The sacrifices, the behind-the-scenes battles, the disturbing demands of the script, and the scars left behind by stepping too deep into the shoes of Alonzo. Now, he admits that Training Day wasn't just another role, it was an experience that nearly consumed him. So why speak out now? What secrets has Denzel been holding for all these years? And how do his revelations shift the way we see this classic film today? What he's about to reveal is raw, unsettling, and dramatic enough to change how Training Day is remembered forever. So, sit tight and enjoy every bit of this video and share your thoughts in the comment section. But first of all, let's flash back to this unforgettable film.
Is there a cop like Alonzo? I hope not. I don't think one could get away with what he gets away with.
Released in 2001, this film wasn't just another cop thriller. It was a searing, relentless character study about power, corruption, and the razor-thin line between justice and crime. Basically, Training Day tells the story of rookie cop Jake Hoyt, played by Ethan Hawke, who embarks on what's supposed to be a single-day evaluation under veteran narcotics officer Detective Alonzo Harris. On the surface, it seems like a chance for Hoyt to learn from one of the department's most decorated figures. But, very quickly, the ride-along transforms into a nightmare. From the very first scenes, Alonzo Harris commands every frame. Washington infused the character with a magnetic mix of charisma and menace, making it impossible to look away. Harris isn't just a cop, he's a force of nature. He talks fast, thinks faster, and bends the rules so often that it's hard to tell if he's enforcing the law or breaking it. For Hoyt, this Training Day becomes a descent into a world he never imagined. As the hours tick by, Hoyt is dragged deeper into Alonzo's twisted methods. What starts with minor ethical compromises, smoking laced with PCP, intimidating informants, quickly escalates into violence, extortion, and outright. Each stop on their journey reveals another layer of Alonzo's corruption, leaving Hoyt trapped between loyalty to his superior and his own moral compass. The tension builds until the film explodes into its unforgettable climax. Alonzo, once seemingly untouchable, is revealed to be a man playing a deadly game, caught in a web of his own lies and betrayals. Hoyt, pushed to his limits, finally confronts him, turning the power dynamic upside down. The streets that once feared Alonzo no longer protect him, and the so-called king falls in a brutal and poetic downfall. Not just any downfall,
He started off as a good cop, and there's a line he says, hey, you gotta have a little dirt on you for anybody to trust you out here.
What made Training Day stand out wasn't just the story, it was how raw and unflinching it felt. The gritty Los Angeles backdrop, the unpredictable pace, and above all, Washington's masterful performance turned a crime drama into a cinematic milestone. He didn't just play Alonzo Harris, he became him, embodying corruption so convincingly that audiences both despised and admired the character at the same time. The film was literally a blockbuster. But beyond the recognition, Training Day left an indelible mark on pop culture. It was the kind of movie that forced audiences to question authority, morality, and the cost of power. It was thrilling, disturbing, and unforgettable. A film that didn't just entertain, but left viewers shaken long after the credits rolled. Now, it gets even more jaw-dropping with Washington's recent revelations. Number 1. The controversial deleted scenes.
People are out to get them, shoot them, or whatever. They put themselves in dangerous situations. Especially in undercover, you don't know who you're dealing with half the time.
With an outstanding film like Training Day, audiences assume they've seen everything the filmmakers intended. But according to Washington, there are pieces of the story the world never got to witness, and for good reason. Washington opened up about the controversial deleted scenes that were cut from the movie, scenes he described as too dangerous and too provocative for the final cut. The first scene, he explained, wasn't about language. It was about sheer violence. Washington revealed that one sequence originally scripted for Detective Alonzo Harris pushed the line so far that it risked damaging not only the film's reputation, but also his own. In the scene, Alonzo was meant to terrorize a young gang member in a way that bordered on psychological torture. The intensity of Washington's performance reportedly unsettled even the crew on set. It wasn't just acting. It felt too real, too unhinged. Watching it, everyone will believe I could do this in real life. Washington said with a grin. The studio ultimately deemed it too dangerous, worried it would make the audience despise Alonzo Harris to a point of no return. Washington himself admitted that the raw energy of that moment frightened him because he had pushed himself into such a dark place to bring Alonzo to life. Removing it wasn't just a creative choice, it was a way of protecting the film from tipping into something unbearable. But it was the second deleted scene that truly shocked audiences when Washington described it. In this cut sequence, Alonzo Harris was shown standing on a busy Los Angeles street, shouting crude, provocative remarks at passing women.
I'm gonna have to spank you. Hey, baby, I'll give you 10 sons, baby, 10. D.A.
He called out to them, making unwanted and degrading comments, sneering as though the city itself was his playground. Washington recalled the discomfort of filming it. It was provocative in the worst way, he admitted. The scene was designed to highlight Alonzo's arrogance and lack of respect for anyone. Not just fellow cops, not just criminals, but ordinary citizens too. It was a brutal depiction of how power, unchecked, corrodes every boundary of decency. For Washington, this scene was difficult not only because of the explicit nature of the comments, but also because it forced him to embody a side of Alonzo that was almost unbearable. There's darkness, and then there's degradation, he said. That crossed into the latter. Crew members later admitted that even while filming, the energy shifted. Extras playing the women passing by were visibly uncomfortable, and some reportedly requested not to repeat takes. The director, Antoine Fuqua, defended the scene at the time as a necessary portrayal of Alonzo's complete lack of morality, but the studio disagreed. Executives feared the sequence would overshadow the character's complexity, reducing him to a caricature of toxic masculinity rather than the nuanced villain Washington had worked so hard to build. In the end, both scenes were cut, left on the editing floor, and locked away from public view. Washington's admission about them decades later confirmed what film critics have long speculated about these deleted scenes. Washington, however, made it clear that they weren't just cut for pacing or length, they were cut because they were too much, too raw, too dangerous, too provocative for 2001, and perhaps even for today. Yet, the very existence of those scenes speaks to the risks Washington was willing to take for the role. He didn't hold back, didn't soften Alonzo for the sake of likability. He dove into the character's corruption so fully that some moments became unwatchable, even for a film designed to unsettle. Washington's revelation shows that the Alonzo we saw on screen was only part of the story. The darker, deleted parts, the scenes too shocking to survive, paint an even grimmer picture of a character already infamous for his moral decay. When asked whether Training Day would still be hailed as a masterpiece, or whether it would have been condemned as too disturbing for audiences to stomach if those scenes had remained, Washington himself seemed unsure. Number 2, the physical sacrifice.
So I was looking for something different. I was thinking ahead, now it's time.
Washington also opened up about the physical sacrifices he had to endure for Training Day changes that not only transformed his body, but also left him questioning whether the role was worth it. Audiences saw Detective Alonzo Harris as a towering, intimidating figure whose physical presence commanded fear and respect. But what they didn't know was how much Denzel had to reshape himself to embody that persona. Unlike many of his earlier roles, where his natural athleticism and lean build perfectly suited the character, Training Day demanded something different. Alonzo wasn't just a cop, he was a street king, a predator who thrived on intimidation. To match that image, Washington was encouraged to put on weight, to look bulkier, more imposing. He followed through, adjusting his diet, slowing down his usual fitness routine, and deliberately building mass. The result was a heavier, more physically dominant figure, perfect for the role but taxing on his body. Adding to the transformation, Washington agreed to temporary tattoos that gave Alonzo Harris a rougher, grittier edge. One tattoo sprawled across his chest, another etched into his arm, designed to symbolize both power and menace. He later recalled how unsettling it was to look in the mirror and see not Denzel, but Alonzo staring back. You don't realize how much of it gets into your head until you can't recognize yourself anymore, he said. But while the physical adjustments served the role brilliantly, the aftermath was far less glamorous. Washington confessed that once filming wrapped, shedding the extra weight was far harder than he expected. Unlike younger roles where he could bounce back into shape with ease, this time, the pounds clung stubbornly. He admitted that the weight gain not only changed his appearance, but also affected his confidence and energy levels. At one point, Washington even admitted to regretting taking on the role. "I started to ask myself if it was worth it," he said. The physical strain lingered long after the applause faded. He wasn't just carrying extra pounds, he was carrying the shadow of Alonzo Harris, both mentally and physically. To recover, Washington had to bring in a professional trainer, someone who could help him rebuild his stamina, reset his diet, and guide him back to a healthier lifestyle. The process wasn't quick. It took months of grueling workouts, strict discipline, and a relentless focus on undoing the choices he had made for training day. And even then, he admitted, the ghost of Alonzo's bulk lingered longer than he wanted. Friends close to Washington said they saw him at his most frustrated during this period. He was proud of the performance, proud of the Oscar it earned him, but privately he felt trapped in a body that didn't feel like his own. For a man who had always been in control of his craft, the idea that a role could reshape him so completely and make it so difficult to return to normal was a sobering reminder of the sacrifices great actors endure. The tattoos too left a mark, even if only temporary. Washington spoke about how the process of applying them daily during filming made him feel consumed by the character. It was like wearing Alonzo's skin, he admitted. By the end of production, he found himself longing to strip away every trace of Harris, but discovered that doing so wasn't nearly as easy as he imagined. Looking back, Washington acknowledged that the physical transformation was both a gift and a curse. It gave Alonzo Harris the authenticity that helped cement Training Day as a masterpiece. Yet, it also forced him into a battle with his own body, a battle he hadn't anticipated at that stage of his career. Reflecting at 70, he admits the role changed him in ways he still feels. While the weight is long gone and the tattoos have faded, the memory of what it took to become Alonzo remains. For Denzel Washington, Training Day wasn't just an artistic triumph, it was a sacrifice etched into his body, his spirit, and his legacy in ways only him knew till now. Number 3. Clashes on set.
But I tried not to, but early on in my career, I had a couple that I could forget about.
Shared that while Training Day went down in history as one of Denzel Washington's greatest triumphs, the road to making it was anything but smooth. Washington later admitted that beyond the physical sacrifices and emotional weight of playing Alonzo Harris, the on-set dynamics themselves became a battlefield, and at the center of many of these clashes was his co-star Ethan Hawke. Hawke, who played rookie cop Jake Hoyt, had been chosen for his boyish looks and his ability to project vulnerability. But behind the camera, Hawke's meticulous nature often clashed with Washington's instinctive, fast-moving style.
OCD. Yeah, he's got some OCD and he's alone.
Ethan suffered from what crew members quietly described as obsessive-compulsive tendencies. He needed repeated takes, precise angles, and rehearsals until every single movement felt perfect. Washington, on the other hand, thrived on raw energy, on the immediacy of emotion. He hated over-rehearsing, preferring to capture lightning in a bottle rather than polish it to death. That difference led to tension. One crew member recalled a day on set where Washington had just delivered a fiery improvised line, only for Hawke to stop the scene, insisting on another take because the rhythm of the steps wasn't right. Washington, furious, slammed his script shut and walked off for nearly half an hour. But Hawke's perfectionism wasn't the only hurdle. To everyone's surprise, the young actor struggled with a subtle case of camera fright. Despite being a seasoned actor by then, the pressure of standing beside Washington, a star who dominated every frame, sometimes left him rattled. During one scene, where Washington's character towers over Jake and hurls venomous lines, Hawke visibly froze. The director called a cut, but the tension in the air was thick. Washington, staying in character, barked at him, "If you can't handle me here, you can't handle me out there," a line that cut deeper than the script ever could. The atmosphere on set became so heavy that even minor issues turned into dramatic standoffs. In one infamous incident, Washington wanted to shoot a pivotal car scene in just 2 takes, believing the raw exhaustion would bleed through authentically. Hawke, however, kept asking for do-overs, insisting his eyeline was off. By the 5th attempt, Washington snapped, pounding the steering wheel and muttering, "We're not making ballet here, we're making fire." The car set went dead silent until the director stepped in to cool tempers. Despite these clashes, there was an undeniable electricity between the two actors that translated powerfully onto the screen. The very tension that threatened to tear apart the set became the same tension that made Alonzo and Jake's relationship so believable. Washington admitted that he often stayed in character as Alonzo during filming days, partly to maintain the intimidating dynamic with Hawke. Crew members revealed that Hawke, already nervous about his scenes, sometimes avoided Washington during breaks just to keep his composure. But clashes weren't limited to his co-star. Washington also found himself butting heads with crew members over camera setups. Known for his precision, Washington despised when technical errors broke his flow. On one occasion, he delivered a harrowing monologue only to realize the camera hadn't been rolling properly. In front of the entire set, he lashed out, demanding professionalism from a team that claimed to be making history. Though he later apologized, the message was clear. He would accept nothing less than perfection, even if it meant bruising egos. Ironically, it was these storms behind the curtain that gave Training Day its raw, dangerous edge. Hawk's obsessive need for precision, his camera jitters, and Washington's uncompromising fire clashed in a way that nearly broke the production. Yet the friction created sparks. Every argument, every walk-off, every frozen moment of tension leaked onto the screen, giving the film a realism that audiences could feel in their bones. Looking back, Washington admitted that the clashes on set were as grueling as the role itself. "It wasn't just Alonzo tearing me down," he said years later. "It was the process, the battles, the push and pull. We all bled a little for that movie." And perhaps that's why Training Day still resonates so deeply. It wasn't born in harmony. It was born in chaos, conflict, and the friction between two men who couldn't agree on how to make magic and yet somehow made it anyway. Number 4. The legacy and burdens.
There was a lot of pressure from a lot of people, like, you better get this right or, you'd be...
Washington went ahead to reveal that far from the media and known celebration and criticisms he faced because of the movie, there are layers of personal battles he carried on long after the camera stopped rolling. Training Day was both a crowning achievement and a haunting example of how a single role could shape and sometimes distort an actor's legacy. On one hand, the film catapulted Washington into an even higher stratosphere of recognition. He was already a star, but Alonzo Harris, the corrupt, ruthless, yet undeniably magnetic detective, made him a lot more popular. The Oscar win, the global recognition, the endless praise from fans, all positioned him as one of the greatest actors alive. Yet the very success of the film came with shadows. Washington recalled how he was deeply criticized by some who believed he had tainted his career by playing such a vile, immoral man. Suddenly, Washington was seen by some as glorifying corruption and feeding into harmful stereotypes about black men in power. He remembered being confronted by viewers who asked why he would ever choose to embody a character so destructive. The burden of those criticisms weighed on him. Washington admitted that at times he felt trapped between two worlds, celebrated for his brilliance, yet accused of betraying his values. One moment he was standing on stage with an Oscar in hand, hailed as the man who delivered one of the greatest performances in modern cinema. Next, he would be sitting in interviews defending his choice, explaining over and over again that his duty as an actor was to tell the truth of human complexity, not just to play saints. Even within the industry, the role shifted how people saw him. Directors began offering him more villainous, morally gray roles, assuming that Training Day had unlocked a darker side of him they could exploit on screen. While flattering in some ways, Washington confessed that it was also limiting. Friends and family noticed the weight too. Washington once admitted that when he walked into a room after the film's release, people sometimes looked at him differently, as though part of Alonzo had followed him into real life. "There were times I wondered if I'd invited too much of him in," he confessed, "and if I would ever really get him out." For Washington, the legacy of Training Day is a bittersweet tone. He does not regret playing Alonzo Harris. The role pushed him, broke him, and rebuilt him in ways few projects ever could. But he admits that the price was heavier than he anticipated. The legacy is glory intertwined with scars. As he put it, "You don't play a man like Alonzo Harris and walk away untouched. You take the awards, you take the criticism, you carry it all, and you live with the question, was it worth it?" And the truth is, the real burden of Training Day, not just the physical sacrifice, the clashes on set, or the haunting psychology, but the lasting reality that one performance can both elevate and unsettle a lifetime's work. Let's know your thoughts in the comments section. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, like and share.